Hello, everyone. Hi, and welcome to Alta Live. My name is Beth Spotswood. I am Alta Journal's digital editor, and I am very excited to welcome you to today's conversation with Lynell George and Jason Foster on Crenshaw at the Crossroads. If you've seen the new issue of Alta Journal, you will have seen Lynell George's fascinating article about this historically Black neighborhood in Los Angeles, Crenshaw Boulevard, and Destination Crenshaw, this exciting new project set to launch in 2025 that we're going to learn all about today. We are joined, I'm delighted to say, by Jason Foster. He is the president and CEO of Destination Crenshaw and was interviewed at length for Lynell's piece. Lynell is a regular Alta contributor and an LA-based journalist, essayist, and author. Both of these people are incredibly talented, accomplished, experienced people. Learn more about them by looking them up. I will send you links to all of their information. Before I turn things over to Lynell, this is my quick sales pitch. Alta Journal, if you have not yet subscribed or checked us out, is an award-winning quarterly journal focused on California and the West. We are big, we are beautiful. This current issue is all about kind of a reckoning of the West, reconciling our past and reimagining our future. So there are articles like Lynell's about Crenshaw, this historically Black neighborhood in LA, and what's going on there. We've got to look at the Oregon Trail, Smokey the Bear. There's a fascinating collection of maps, a folio that you can pull out. I really encourage you to check out this current issue. You can subscribe for $50 a year, get 4 gorgeous issues of Alta, as well as a special gift. It's our book of the first 5 years of cartoons. Yes, we have cartoons. We host weekly events like this. Alta Live is free every Wednesday at 12:30, along with our California book club. So if you like what we do, I hope you'll consider supporting it. There is a Q&A button at the bottom of the screen and a chat that is open. Hello, San Marcos, Texas, Oklahoma, South San Francisco, Glendale. Thank you guys so much for zooming in. Please ask questions. Lynell will invite me back at the end. I will ask some questions on your behalf before we let these two very busy professionals get back on with their very busy day. I've understood from Jason, he's in a whirlwind of a day already. So with that, from Novato, California, I will turn it over to Lynell.
Thanks everyone for joining us today. Jason, it is so wonderful to see you again.
Absolutely. It's great to see you as well. I'm excited to give everybody a window into our conversations.
Yes, yes. And you know what I noticed? My phone reminded me that 2 days ago was the first day that I came down to meet you.
Wow.
A year ago, you know?
Full circle.
Yeah, full circle. So I'm excited to talk about Destination Crenshaw, talk about your impressions of our historic Black neighborhood, the Crenshaw district. It's just for background so everyone knows. I grew up in the very neighborhood that Jason is in the process of reinvigorating and transforming. And so I've had a personal stake in this. And I just want to thank you for, also like just being so open to so many of my questions and my own personal concerns. I tried to keep my reporter's hat on. But of course, it's hard stuff too, so thank you. I appreciate
you. Of course. And thank you for the openness and the want to get to the bottom of it, right? Yes. Or at least to start doing that.
Right.
I think that's the work.
Thank you. Yeah, really. Thank you for your time. Well, first off, just to kind of orient everyone, can you tell us a little bit about the project, the beginnings, the scope, goals, but the elevator version?
Yeah. So Destination Crenshaw, we are a 1.3 mile cultural project along Crenshaw Boulevard. In 2011, there was a light rail that was announced to go down Crenshaw Boulevard. And this is going to connect LAX to mid-city Los Angeles, and anticipated 6 million people taking this train every year. So it's going to be a big deal. Right. The thing about the Crenshaw section is that there's a 1.3 mile area where it's actually going to be at grade. And so instead of being underground or above ground like most rail, it's going to go right through the community. And originally when it was announced, there was no stop for the folks at Crenshaw. So it was literally going to bypass the community. And so the council president now, Marquise Harris Dawson, he was a community organizer at Community Coalition. He led a years-long campaign to organize around, like, what do we do with this? How do we take these lemons and make them lemonade? And it went from one-to-one meetings to community advisory council. They met every quarter for 4 years and really designed how the community could benefit from what they see is all these people seeing their community for potentially the first time, right? Like, how could you make this infrastructure project keep us in place? And the solution was culture. And so we knew that in this community, we have the chief export of LA, and that's Black creative capital, right? From our artists to our musicians, to our chefs, to our designers, to our, you know, activations that we create. It all centers in Crenshaw, in the Crenshaw district. And so the choice was to use culture and public art as a way to cement this community. I joined in the end of 2019. You know, I was a financial consultant. I was moving us off fiscal sponsorship as a nonprofit to kind of fly on our own. We did a groundbreaking. We had 3,500 people come out to Leimert Park and celebrate that we were going to do this project in a year. And 4 days later was a stay-at-home order.
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah. And I think
it had a lot of pivoting to do
and a lot of pivoting. And also it really showed, it showed me personally the resilience that this community already had, right? Because at that time it was around 5 years of metro construction. Already, right? So they were already having that happen where all their trees and all their parking spots were taken up by this construction. So to come in and say, we're going to not only do that, but also improve, and then have to pivot, right? I think that is what has really made this organization what it is the ability to be flexible, but also keep our mind's eye on the goal.
I mean, you've been not just the face of this project in the community, you've been a presence. I know you walk around, people see you, engage, want to get to know you, have questions. I'm especially in the beginning, what were some of the concerns or reservations, wariness people were expressing to you that you heard early on?
You know, where do I live, right? You know, I think one thing about Crenshaw is, you know, people aren't shy. And, you know, one of the things I appreciate as a person that has been organizing in Black community throughout the country. So in DC, in Brooklyn, in East Knoxville, where I'm from, and now Los Angeles, you know, the hardest thing to do is to get people to tell the truth. So to work in a community where people are very honest about, you know, their worries and their fears, but also their hopes, right? Because both of those are equally important. You know, folks were saying, like, okay, what's going to happen now that this train is here? Right? Like, are we going to be moved? Like, how are our costs going to go up? Is it going to be harder for my business to thrive? We love our parking in Los Angeles. So, you know, can we get some more parking? All those questions are important, and there were no small ones, because I think what we were able to do is really utilize that and really make this project community centric. So it is a community driven project. So we are doing additional parking lots, right? In a you know, a time where planners typically don't. Right. You want to just use the rail. You want to actually drive people to it. But I think our community wanted that, and they deserve it for what they've been through.
I mean, there's been so much sensitivity to listening. That was the other thing I was saying to someone else who was asking me about the project, because I get questions now too. You know?
We'll give you the FAQ.
Thank you. Because that's the thing. It's like, I think, you know, people forget that because LA is so big, each community is really different and has different needs and different rituals and different ways they understand space and how they move through space. And I think, you know, you've been flexible in trying to think, okay, this is not a one size fits all situation. What other things have you learned about Crenshaw district and the people of Crenshaw that's different from any other community you've worked with?
So that is a fabulous question, and I'm still learning. It's an onion, right?
Yes, ongoing.
And
Yes.
I think looking at my background, the first place I worked at in LA was the LA River, right? So I was
Right.
doing infrastructure work, but it was 51 miles. It was 17 municipalities. There's 1 million people that live within a mile. So it wasn't a deep dive, right? It was very high level macro
Yes.
issues. And those 17 communities all were different, right?
Incredible. Yeah.
This allows me to go really deep in one. So it is an opportunity to kind of think about what is the culture of this community.
Right.
And so the last time we did canvassing, and we typically do it, twice a year, we asked people, how do you get your news? Because what you pointed out is exactly what people said. 80% of the people were like, word of mouth.
Yes. Yes.
So we did make a FAQ of the questions that we get, and we give that to the Community Advisory Council and our board and everybody that's around our project, because we know that it is very important to get people the actual information. And the telephone game is real.
Yes.
And so I think that's the thing for me that really, it showed, one, the importance of our relationships, but it also showed how connected this community is.
Yes.
Right? Like how important each conversation is
right.
to your broader goal.
Yes.
And I think for my work, it makes every single conversation very important. And to give that much information, the quality is very important too, because we're also working at the level of our project.
Right.
Right. So we have to meet the expectation of the person that we're talking to before we know it.
Right.
Right. So it's always better to try to overshoot that. And I just try to do it in every conversation.
Yes. That was the other thing too. I was thinking about, you used this term when we were talking, and this connected to what was happening before, the construction around the rail. And what this community has endured, for decades now, the construction, post civil unrests, plural, and you missed this term I love, which was, this is reparative development.
Yes.
Can you explain a little bit about this and how that also kind of connected with COVID, your time in COVID too?
Exactly. So, I think one of the things that I fell in love with this project early on is that they were working through a term called reparative development, like you said, right? And so this is coming from my perspective, where in Brooklyn, I was doing community development, right? Along the river, we were doing equitable development, right? In this project, they were really testing out, like, what would it be to repair the community emotionally through a project? And to really work through the issues that we have, whether it be self-work, community work, or physical work in space, right? Like, how does that feel and look? And I think, for us, it is layers, right? How do we improve our community and make sure that people are okay with it, right? They feel like it's for them. That takes some effort. And it really does take some repair to not only how they feel about themselves, but also their own community. We deserve this. This investment is for us, because systemic disinvestment, it really does play tricks in your mind. Right? Where anything could be for someone else if you've had 40 years of no investment. And that could be a tree, that could be a pothole being fixed. You're like, oh my gosh, right? So that's what we're really trying to do. And our strategic plan is a framework, because we know we're not alone. There are plenty of east and south sides of a lot of cities that Black people live that need repair, right? And not only the physical, but also the emotional as well.
Right. And that, to me, ties into another conversation we were having about, and we could probably talk for hours about this. So is the gentrification.
Oh, yeah.
And I love, because it's so true, because this is something that I have encountered in reporting, people worried when something new comes in, anything could be a coffee house, a gallery, an exercise studio. What does it mean? If it seems, and it's like, is it for us? It's not for us, or it's not for us. How have you been working to keep people like, to, I guess, to comfort people and to assure them that this change is for us, it's for the community?
Yeah, and I think, what I've learned in this project is, we are trying to build relationships to get people to go a little bit deeper than that big word,
Yeah.
right? Like gentrification can mean a lot of different things, and it means different things to different people.
Right.
So, we are asking, are you talking about improvement?
Mm-hmm.
Because, Crenshaw, we're not negotiating on improvement. We are improving, right?
Yes.
Like there's no negotiation. That's what we do. We are being self-determinant and making that happen.
Yes.
Or are we talking about displacement?
Yes.
Right? Like, are
Yes.
we talking about you being physically moved from where you want against your will, right?
Right.
Because ultimately we want to repair that.
Yes.
That is what the reparative work is, because in our work at Destination Crenshaw, we are essentially doing work in the public right away.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
is improvement around you, not
Yes.
through you, right?
Yes.
And I think a lot of times in our
Yes.
Black communities, it
Yes.
is through us,
Through. Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we
Mm-hmm.
need people to actually come to an understanding of what improvement could mean if it wasn't moving you physically,
Right.
because that will hopefully make it feel better for the other things to happen, right?
Right.
Like we
Right.
have more Black ownership in Crenshaw because Destination Crenshaw happened, right?
Right.
Like we have more people looking at our community for investment, whether that's
Right.
public or private.
Right.
And I would love to believe that the feeling that Destination Crenshaw gives around the community is hopefully being a champion to that or making it possible. So that's, I think, gentrification is a word that is used against
Yes.
disinvested community, right?
Yes.
Like it is given to our residents, and our residents use it to fight
Yes.
against the improvements that they need. And
Exactly.
so it takes advocates in their own community to challenge it,
Yes.
to really organize around, okay, what do we want then?
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Because if it's property value increase, that is everything.
Right.
That is literally everything
Right.
that could potentially make it better for you.
Right. And you said something else too, to me very early on about, the importance of having people who are from the neighborhood, generationally been in the neighborhood, being the voice of the neighborhood
Absolutely.
and telling the story. So we would be the people going out and spreading the word, and help, again, back to the word of mouth, how important that is to have people who are rooted in place, talking about place in a way that other people wouldn't know. They won't know that sort of, nesting dolls of history about how Lamert, how Crenshaw became that way.
Exactly.
And what's at stake.
And acknowledging that I'm learning that.
Yes.
Right? Like I think
Exactly.
that's I think the power of organizing and the power of actually empowering the community,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Is creating those spokespeople, creating the people that have a learned experience of what we're doing, right? Because they're going to listen to you, Lynell, before they listen to me. I think that is ultimately, I think something that Crenshaw took on as their chief challenge.
Yes. Yes.
Right? Like
Yes.
to build a collective movement to, be in place. I think this community kind of put their flag in the ground and they said, no, we're going to be here. We're going to have a Black section of Los Angeles.
Right.
The 20 or 30 years that people have been moving out is not okay with us.
No.
And this is not going to finish us off. This is going to make it better for us.
Yes.
And I think that, community members have stepped up. So, our work now is really giving them the tools.
Right.
Whether it's, the activations, the community engagement, or the talking points, right? And being available, because moments like this happen in the barbershop. They happen in Lamert in the coffee shop.
That's
right? Like they happen walking
festival.
by.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Right.
at the Taste of Soul.
That's right.
At Freedom Festival.
That's
Like
right.
it is in the grocery store where people are having the conversations around what is that going on out there. And the more people that we have that are saying, oh girl, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's great. Have you not heard
don't be scared of that. Right.
Have you not heard of that?
Yeah.
Let me tell you about that. Right. Like it is that. And
Yeah.
it is this community taking that on. And we're lucky at Destination Crenshaw to be able to help that.
Exactly.
right? To be able to help that and to be able to move that forward, that's the gift of the work.
Right. I'm looking at the time. I want to get to definitely a little bit about the Sankofa, the parklets, what it's going to look like. What and what I thought was really important too was that goal of having, okay, we're going to have these sculptures, we're going to have these pieces, these murals up. What will this feel like for
Right.
Los Angeles? And the fact that you wanted artists who were either from LA or had a deep connection to LA, why that was important.
Right. So the 1.3 miles, we're going to have 100 public art commissions. So that's a lot, right? And we're going to really create a sense of cultural permanence, right? Like when we think about Harlem, we think about the Black people that have lived there in the past, but also there today. And currently in Los Angeles, there are a lot of ethnic enclaves for a lot of different groups of folks, but not Black people.
Right.
And we knew intrinsically, right, that this was the community for Black folks. There's more Black people in the Crenshaw district in LA County than the state of Mississippi.
It's amazing.
Right. And we know that, but the world doesn't. Right. And so this was an opportunity to create a space where we have 6 pocket parks and community spaces, some as big as 40,000 square feet with 4 sculptures from artists, world-renowned artists, but all grounded in the community. So Kehinde Wiley, Charles Dixon, Artist Lane, Marin Hassinger, doing art in that space, all saying different things, but the same thing, like we are here, right, in their own different ways. And then we'll have parklets throughout the corridor that really speak to other art from Allison Sarr, from Mel Edwards, from Brenna Youngblood, all really celebrating who they feel like is represented in our community. Allison Sarr is doing sculptures of people that she saw in the 50s when she was growing up on Crenshaw. So they'll have crowns made of household figures. They'll be bronze. They'll be in their Sunday's best. And the greatest thing about this project is that Doolin's on Crenshaw is across the street from that parklet. So people in their Sunday's best will be walking to Doolin's for brunch, right? And seeing that sculpture and knowing that they are a part of this community forever.
Right.
And so, combining those permanent sculptures with the murals that are going up along the corridor, we're going to create a cultural experience. This is an outdoor open air museum that people taking that train will get off. They will say, what is that there? And then they'll be able to experience Crenshaw, the businesses that have made this community what it is, and really create a cultural destination for this community. But it's inside out, right? Our name came from the late Nipsey Hussle saying that, this community needs to be a destination.
Right.
And I think from that, that's been the point of it all, right? Is to make this community what it is first for us. And then the rest of the world will be able to participate once we're done.
Beautiful. My last question before we bring Beth back on for questions is, can we talk about Sankofa and why that term is important?
Yeah, so Sankofa is an African adage that talks about being able to look in the past and move in the future. And so there's an African bird that is able to fly forward and look backwards at the same time. And our project is based on intergenerational exchange.
Yes.
And how do we actually utilize the wisdom of our elders as we move forward into the future? How do we actually better and repair those relationships of all these different generations that we hear about, whether it's X or Z or, like I'm a millennial cuss, like, we need the past.
Right.
And I think a lot of times we believe that we can actually outthink what's going to happen in the future. But in infrastructure and cultural work, it is our elders, it is the wisdom of the past that actually creates the permanent solutions that you see. So culture changes at a very, very slow rate. Right. And so if we want to really fight against the rapid change of Black community, the rapid displacement that's been happening in our community, culture is the answer.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so it is really working with our elders that are on the community advisory council and having them work together with the young people, right? The people that are doing the same idea that they did 40 years ago. So Lynell, I was telling you about, every time I hear these stories, like, what, Jason, what do we do? I just call, there's two people, right? And I call them and I say, what'd you do the last time this happens? And they're like, oh, well, it's happened 3 times. So this time this happened, this time. And I think that that is an opportunity for us to not have to make it up.
Exactly.
We spend so much
Save
time.
some steps and energy. Yeah.
Yeah, save you so much steps, but also it brings them along too. It allows them to see that this time it might actually stick. And that excitement for people is ultimately the solution that we want in Crenshaw. We don't want to do this again, right? Exactly. We want to do this for the last time. And I think that that is the excitement of having the young folks being able to see the win today, and our elders being able to finally see the win.
Yes.
Right? Like that is the gift.
Yes.
To be able to do those things at the same time.
Yeah, go get it. Exactly.
Yes.
Go get it. Beth?
I'm sorry I surprised you with that map. Someone in the audience.
No, that was great.
No, it was great. It was great.
It was perfect. It was perfect time.
Gave us context.
Someone in the audience asked for it, and I was like, of course, let's do it. So there we go. I hope that was helpful to our audience. And it, there's some things that are just better in print. It's right here in the magazine. If you available for sale at altaonline.com/store. If you want to pick up your very own copy or at your neighborhood bookstore.
I've got mine.
Good. You got a bunch.
Yeah, I did get a bunch.
We're like, Jason placed an order. All right. Donna asks, Jason, can you give some examples, maybe just one or two really specific examples of how Destination Crenshaw is centering culture in your work and tying it to community reparation and retention?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. So the culture is based on our public art. So by doing permanent sculptures in our community, we are creating the kind of culture district, right? So we are doing large sculptures. So these are not, 6, 7 feet. These are 30 feet, 45 feet by world-renowned artists. And it's going to drive in people to see the space. How we actually correct some of the systemic issues with property value and assessment is that in this area where, our Black folks own the majority of the commercial and the residential, we're working in the public right away. We're really challenging what assessment means and the feelings associated with value. And I think that is something that I've learned throughout my time at Destination Crenshaw, is that we have all the value already. We just have never been able to bring it outside of our bodies. Right. We have never been able to show people, right? So now this is an opportunity that we can actually correct some of those wrongs in our underinvestment or disinvestment that we've had in the past.
Diane asks, do you have any plans to honor, forgive me if I mispronounce this, Sika Dwimfo, who has been a staple in the community and recently passed away?
Excellent question.
So that's a fabulous question. So he has a street sign in Leimert Park already that is honoring him, and we will continue to lift him up. I mean, that is actually one of the examples I was referencing around like, what do you do when one of your staples, is no longer here? And how do you deal with that? And I did ask an elder in the community, how should we participate? And we're actually actively doing it right now. There's a lot of, in Crenshaw and Leimert, a lot of activities that happened organically. And so Destination Crenshaw is here to support those. And so we work as a facilitator and a connector, and really will continue to do so. And folks like Sika, they have made this community what it is. And so all we can do is kind of lift up and use Sankofa as a way to make sure all the work that he's done lives on forever.
Yes.
Margaret asks, public art must have dedicated funds for maintenance. How is this crucial need going to be accomplished?
Great question. Because, one thing the community asked is that Destination Crenshaw operate and maintain the spaces that we are creating. Right. So as a private nonprofit, that's going to be our chief goal to do that. And so we're going to have a maintenance team. And the Getty Foundation has actually supported us in creating a collections care program. So we're going to have our maintenance people be trained as collections care workers. This allows us to actually work on the dead end path of a maintenance worker, and actually create a new skill set, right? We're going to create a new workforce that can be placed at all the other cultural institutions throughout Los Angeles, but ultimately they'll be placed from here, right? So their wages will go up and they'll be able to drive that tax base back to where they live right now. So we're looking forward to actually moving that program forward and creating a lot of collections care specialists from the Crenshaw district.
Last question. I know you both are very busy. Maisie asks, what would you say is the best way for Angelenos that are not based in Crenshaw to support this work? And perhaps even, I mean, if it's on this thoroughfare to LAX for visitors.
Yeah, take the K line. So if you're from LA, the best way to support www.destinationcrenshaw.la. We do have a donate page. We are a small nonprofit with 5 people trying to make it happen. We would love your support. But ultimately, the businesses are the reason why we exist. Take the K line, take the Expo in Crenshaw, get off, get on, K line, you're there, right? Get off at the Lamert stop and check us out. I think you'll be surprised.
Yeah.
Because ultimately the destination has always been here, right? And I think that is really what this organization is really trying to do, is lift up the folks that have made this community what it is. Come to Doolin's for brunch on Sundays. They'll probably sweep you up at Bethesda and you'll be in church. If you walk too slow, you're going to go there too, right? I think these are the things that I think once this train is connected and people really start experiencing this community, it's going to be that Harlem feeling, but in LA. People are going to really start knowing and appreciating what Crenshaw is, just like we do. And just like Lynell does as people that are from the Crenshaw district, there's a special sense of pride.
Yes.
And all we're trying to do at Destination Crenshaw is really show that, because folks deserve it.
Lynell, Jason, thank you both so much for taking the time to speak about this. I know that you worked together on this article. Lynell, you worked on this for quite a long time, and spent a lot of time getting to know Jason and Destination Crenshaw. And it is, your article is wonderful and we love it. So we're very pleased. Thank you, Lynell.
Thank you. And Jason, I'll see you soon. I'm going to be coming back.
I'm right here. I'm by the post office. I'm right here. And I do want to say before we hop off, rarely, if ever, have we had a piece capture all sides, whether it be the fears, the hopes, the dreams, the history of this project and of the Crenshaw district. So Lynell, just wanted to give you your flowers as a person that is from the community, but can write really well. So thank you. Because I believe it will be the piece that, we use as a way to describe our work and what we're trying to accomplish. So just thank you for that.
Thank you.
Well, that is a lovely way to end this conversation. Folks, before you go, I'd like to invite you to next week, October 30th. We'll be talking about ghost towns of the Wild West. And that's October 30th here at Alta Live at 12:30 p.m. This conversation has been recorded and will be emailed to you later this afternoon, along with links to Lynell's article, destinationcrenshaw.la.
Yes.
Yes. And anything else that popped up today. So grateful to all of you. Jason, Lynell, take care, and we look forward to seeing you at the next one.
Thank you.